A choking haze of smoke drifts through the narrow mountain pass. Spears splinter, shields thunder like drumbeats. Persian arrows blot out the sun, yet the Spartan line does not break. At the front stands King Leonidas, his crimson cloak torn, bronze armor glinting with blood and sweat. Beside him, 300 warriors lock shields in unison, their faces calm, their eyes blazing. The Persian immortals surge forward again, tens of thousands against hundreds, but the narrow walls funnel them into a killing ground. The Spartans lunge as one. Spears flash, men fall, the earth shakes. This is not simply a battle. It is a stand for all of Greece, for freedom itself. And as the tide of the world's largest army crashes against a wall of men who refuse to yield, a legend is born. But how did a handful of warriors end up defying the greatest empire the ancient world had ever seen? To answer that, we must step back years, even decades, to the simmering tensions between East and West. At the dawn of the 5th century BCE, the Persian Empire stretched from the Indus Valley to the Aegean Sea, an empire of roads, gold, and kings. Under Darius I, Persia had already tried to bring the fractious Greek city-states to heel. In 490 BCE at Marathon, the Athenians stunned the world by repelling a Persian invasion. Humiliated but undeterred, Persia prepared for revenge. By 480 BCE, Darius was dead. His son, Xerxes I, inherited both the throne and his father's unfinished war. Xerxes raised a host so vast that even ancient chroniclers ran out of numbers. Greek sources speak of 1 million men, likely an exaggeration, but still perhaps hundreds of thousands, drawn from every corner of the empire. Persians, Medes, Egyptians, Babylonians, and more. This was not just a military expedition. It was a message: defy Persia and be crushed. In Greece, fear spread like wildfire. The city-states were brilliant but divided, jealous of one another, and prone to quarrels. Yet Persia's second invasion forced them to confront a hard truth: unite or be enslaved. A council at Corinth forged a fragile alliance under Spartan leadership. Athens, with its fleet, would command the sea. Sparta, with its unrivaled hoplites, would command the land. But where could they make a stand? Where could a tiny Greek army delay the monstrous Persian host long enough for their navy to strike? Their answer lay in a narrow slit of land between mountain and sea, a place called Thermopylae, the Hot Gates. The geography of Thermopylae was as much a weapon as any spear. Here, the coastal cliffs and the Malian Gulf pinched the road into a passage scarcely wide enough for a chariot. Hot sulfur springs bubbled nearby, giving the pass its name. In 480 BCE, the pass was even narrower than it is today, just a few dozen yards across at its tightest point. A natural chokehold on the way into central Greece. Sparta, chosen to lead the defense, faced a dilemma. By religious tradition, the full Spartan army could not march until the end of the sacred festival of Carnea. Yet time was running out. So King Leonidas set out with a small advance guard, his own royal bodyguard of 300 Spartans, augmented by perhaps 6,000 to 7,000 allied hoplites from Thespy, Thebes, Corinth, and other city-states. This was no suicide mission, at least not yet. Their task was to hold the pass long enough for reinforcements to gather and for the Greek fleet to strike at the Persian navy. The Spartan hoplite was the product of a lifetime of discipline. From the age of 7, Spartan boys entered the agoge, a ruthless system that forged obedience, endurance, and skill. By adulthood, a Spartan fought as part of a living machine, the phalanx. Each man carried a heavy round shield, the aspes, and a long spear, the dory, with a short sword as backup. Shoulder to shoulder, shield overlapping shield, they formed a wall of bronze and oak that could absorb a charge and then thrust forward in deadly unison. Their allies fought in similar style, though none with Spartan rigor. Facing them was an army built on speed and flexibility. Persian infantry, drawn from dozens of nations, carried wicker shields and short spears or bows. Their elite corps, the so-called immortals, were better armored but still lighter than the Greeks. The Persians excelled at archery and cavalry, devastating on open plains. But in the cramped funnel of Thermopylae, cavalry was useless, and massed archery would be blunted by the Greeks' heavy shields. As Leonidas' small force dug in at the pass, Xerxes' colossal host poured into northern Greece, bridging the Hellespont with floating pontoons, cutting roads through mountains, draining rivers to water their march. Villages emptied before them. Every step of the Persian advance sent tremors of panic through the Greek alliance. Leonidas chose his ground carefully. At the narrowest point, he ordered a low stone wall repaired, an ancient Phocian barrier, to give the hoplites an extra edge. Behind this wall, shield to shield, they would meet the might of Asia. Yet even as the Spartans prepared, whispers of treachery and doubt spread. Some Greek contingents wavered. Others feared Xerxes' vengeance. Leonidas knew morale could crack before the Persians even arrived. He walked among his men in the evening light, speaking not of glory but of duty. "This pass," he told them, "is Greece. If we hold it, we buy our freedom. If we fail, there will be no tomorrow." The stage was set. The largest army the ancient world had seen was about to smash into a wall of bronze and courage, at a place whose name would echo for millennia. On the morning of the 4th day of August 480 BCE, the dust of the Persian host rose like a brown sea over the Malian plain. Columns of men, horses, and wagons stretched beyond sight. Bronze flashed, banners snapped. To the Greeks peering from the cliffs above, it looked like the earth itself was moving. Xerxes set up his throne on a hill overlooking the pass. From there, he could watch his vast army crush a handful of rebels. But the pass before him was eerily still. Just a low wall of stones, a shimmer of shields, and crimson cloaks unmoving under the sun. For 2 days, he sent messengers demanding surrender, promising wealth and power. Leonidas answered only with defiance. Herodotus records his words in one laconic phrase, "Molin Labe, come and take them." At last, Xerxes' patience broke. He unleashed the first wave. The Medes and Scythians advanced, expecting to sweep the Greeks aside. But as they funneled into the choke point, their numbers became a curse. The front ranks crashed into a wall of shields, and the narrowness robbed them of momentum. The Greek line surged forward in perfect rhythm. Spears stabbed overhand, splintering wicker shields, dropping men before they could swing a sword. When the front ranks of Persians fell, more were pushed from behind into the killing ground. Arrows darkened the sky, but the hoplites crouched behind their heavy shields. When the Medes tried to withdraw, the Spartans executed a deadly feigned retreat, wheeling back suddenly to cut down pursuers. The road was slick with blood before noon. Xerxes watched, stunned. He had not expected his elite troops to fail, so he called upon his best. The 10,000 immortals, the pride of Persia, stepped forward in silence, glittering in scale armor with long spears and curved swords. They had never been defeated. They surged into the pass. Again, the Greek wall held. The heavier hoplite spears outranged the immortals' weapons, and their overlapping shields made Persian arrows almost useless. When a Spartan spear snapped, he drew his short sword and kept fighting shoulder to shoulder. The immortals tried to envelop the flanks, but the cliffs and the sea boxed them in. For hour after hour, they were cut down in droves. Xerxes, watching from his throne, is said to have leapt to his feet 3 times in alarm. By nightfall, the immortals withdrew, leaving the pass piled with their dead. The Greeks had lost only a handful. At dawn, Xerxes renewed the attack with fresh troops, thinking fatigue would break the Greeks. Instead, the defenders fought with even greater ferocity. The Spartans rotated units to keep them fresh. Their discipline turned the narrow pass into a slaughterhouse. Greek morale soared, Persian morale sagged. Whispers of the marathon defeat returned. Xerxes faced an ugly truth. His vast army was being held at bay by a few thousand men, but treachery would open what force could not. Among the local Greeks was a man named Ephialtes. Tempted by Persian gold, he revealed a hidden goat path through the mountains, the Anapia, that bypassed the main pass and came out behind the Greek position. Xerxes seized the chance. That night he dispatched the immortals to march the path in darkness. By dawn they would be behind Leonidas. Greek scouts spotted the movement and raced to warn Leonidas. The king quickly gathered his captains. They understood the situation instantly. They were about to be surrounded. Some allies panicked and fled. Leonidas dismissed others, ordering them to save themselves and fight another day. He stayed with his 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians who refused to leave, and a contingent of Thebans who may have been hostages. This was no longer a delaying action. It was a last stand. As the sun rose, the Spartans moved forward beyond the wall into the widest part of the pass. There they formed up for the last time, their crimson cloaks bright against the dust. They fought with reckless courage, knowing death was certain. Spears broke, swords shattered. They fought on with daggers, with fists, even with teeth. According to Herodotus, they pulled the bodies of the fallen over their own to form a grisly barricade. From the hills above, the immortals descended behind them. The Greeks wheeled to face both directions, a shrinking circle of bronze. An arrow struck Leonidas. He fell where he stood. The Spartans fought like madmen to retrieve his body, hacking and shoving until they held it. Around that corpse they made their final defense. By midday the last of them were overwhelmed. The Persians poured through the pass, but at a cost so staggering that their easy conquest had turned into a warning. Xerxes ordered Leonidas' head cut off and nailed to a post, a grim message to Greece. Yet the effect was the opposite. News of the stand at Thermopylae spread like wildfire. For 2 full days, a tiny Greek force had held back an empire. On the third, they had chosen death over surrender. This display of sacrifice electrified the Greek world. The delay at Thermopylae allowed the Greek fleet to regroup at Salamis. Weeks later, that navy would ambush and destroy Xerxes' armada, crippling his invasion. Within a year at Plataea, a united Greek army would drive the Persians from Greece for good. Thermopylae did not stop Persia by itself, but it became the rallying cry, the proof that freedom was worth dying for. In Greek memory, it stood as the moment when courage outweighed numbers, when a wall of shields could hold back a tide. Even today, at the site of the Hot Gates, stands a simple monument. It bears an epitaph by the poet Simonides. Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie. The Battle of Thermopylae was more than a clash of armies. It was an idea that a small band of free citizens could defy the might of empire, and in dying, plant the seed of victory. If you stood in that narrow pass today, with the hot springs steaming and the mountains pressing close, you could almost hear the clash of bronze, the roar of men who refused to yield. This is just one chapter in the epic struggle between Persia and Greece. In our next video, we'll follow how the Greek navy struck back at Salamis, the battle that changed the course of Western history. Subscribe for more untold stories of ancient warfare, where courage meets strategy and legends are born.